of the Board of Education to order. First up under general business is verification that the meeting is properly posted. Michelle?
Yes, it was.
Excellent, thank you. Next up under general business is opportunity for public comment. Is anyone signed up for public comment?
No, there isn't.
No? Excellent. Anyone in the gallery would like to address, who's not an employee, like to address the committee? Alrighty, moving on. Action items. First up for action item is motion to approve minutes. Are we looking for a motion?
I so move.
Mrs. Voigt.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Koenig. Any discussion on the minutes? Anything missing? Anything? Alrighty, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Moving on, the next action item is a discussion on policy 5505 academic honesty.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for the conversation around this policy. In this policy, what we are bringing forward is two pieces. One is the policy that we had in place prior to it was brought on board in 2017. At that time, when that policy was brought forward, Neola did not have a policy around this. And now, since then, Neola has kind of taken some of our work and integrated that into all their other policies. And so that's where tonight we are bringing forward the one to rescind 5505 academic honesty, but also bring forward the new policy. With the new policy that we are bringing forward, there are just a few changes. But in your board packet and online, there's the redlined version of the older policy and then the newer version, which is very similar. But I wanted to just point out a few changes. One is around the word using versus presenting of academic information in that first paragraph, just presenting it as their own work. We also added a definition around plagiarism that was not included in the previous policy. And then we also added some additional clarity around when the expectation is for the work to be done individually. Oftentimes, there's group work and individual work, and so we wanted to make that clear that these are the dishonesty would include these following, especially when the expectation is that work is done individually. Also about this policy, prior to bringing it forward today, I talked with the student services directors as well as teaching and learning directors about it and reviewed and had some conversation prior to bringing it here. Since it's in the 5,000 series, we bring it here, but I wanted you to know that we collaborated across departments since this impacts all of us in teaching and learning and student services.
All right, any?
Discussion?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's really good that they've included a definition of plagiarism and, specifically saying that claiming work as your own without crediting the source. Because I think that concept of being able to teach kids very early on that they need to, quote their sources is a really, really good idea. And I think even the idea of adding in E, the academic dishonesty includes using language translation work of someone else when the expectation is doing your own translation. So with the foreign language teachers that, are getting kids to turn in assignments that are just using an app, et cetera. I think they're really including a lot of things that the previous 2017 version didn't even begin to cover. So I think they've done a really nice job of updating. As I was mentioning before, there is a need for a comma at the end of the third line. It's talking there about the board prohibits any student from presenting someone else's work as their own, comma, presenting artificial intelligence platforms in place of one's own work, comma. Without that comma, it seems like it's only if it's done through AI, and it's like, no, we need a comma that, these are two different situations. The AI is the new addition that, brings it up to date. That's one you thought?
Okay. Good addition. Or anything else? Mr. What?
Yes. So just a couple of questions. Looking at item C, Presenting the results from an artificial intelligence platform is one zone. I'm just curious how that is identified. How would we know? Is there some way to easily identify whether work presented comes from an AI platform or not?
Others can jump in that are here, but oftentimes there's some tools that can check for plagiarism as far as the copying, rather than specifically from AI. One thing people have done is gone back to the old writing process where you have drafts of your work.
Right.
And if all of a sudden there's this 5-paragraph piece that looks nothing like you've written before and you had no other work up into that in drafts, sometimes that's a helpful talking point moving forward.
Are we seeing that right now in the schools? Is this a problem currently? Is it?
We are seeing it.
I'm seeing nods from the audience.
All right. The other question I have, and I think I might know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. In the previous policy, there were references to the unauthorized copying of software or use of hard copy or software to develop one's own software. Just wondering why that was removed. Is that a product of the fact that we're kind of now on the iPads and all the software that winds up on there is controlled through the district, or?
Yeah, I think that goes to the times of technology. Just what we're facing with kids, and that's not applied.
And this may be a question for Steve. There's no way for students to get unauthorized applications on their iPad. Okay.
I'll double check with Steve, but I know a lot of that is locked down and with permissions. I mean, we have an extensive process for that.
Yeah, and that may be a different policy area anyway, because I don't know if that would necessarily be a academic honesty issue. Okay, that was all I had. Thank you.
Any other discussion regarding academic honesty? Mr. Wadd, I know that you can take a student's work and plug it into a program, because a lot of the AI is open source.
Yeah,
It's out there. So
Okay.
they can plug it in there and see if it's been produced on the internet. Most of it's out on the internet after it's produced. So I know teachers that do that when
Yeah.
when it's suspect, they'll plug it in and then see if it spits it out from somewhere else.
right.
And it usually does.
Yeah, and I want to mention, I'm sure our teachers are well aware of that and have those tools. I know the place of employment where I work, we're seeing quite a bit of it. And the teachers are having different, websites, different tools that they're able to pick up immediately. So I think this is going to be a growing problem, but it's nice now that we have this concrete language in here. And I do appreciate the definition of plagiarism. I kind of thought it was odd that the word plagiarism was just used in the old one, just the word plagiarism. And, sometimes kids need it right in front of them, explaining what does that mean? So I appreciate that. It's great.
Alrighty, so we'd be looking for a motion, if we're comfortable. We have to rescind. Yep.
So I would move to adopt the new policy 5505, academic honesty, as presented, and rescind the previous version of policy 5505.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Watt. Is there a second?
A
Mrs.
second.
Voigt, thank you. Any further discussion on either the adoption or the rescinding of previous policy? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, 4-0. Thank you very much. That concludes our action items. Yes. Yes.
Before we move on, I just want to thank you for that conversation, but also share some next steps.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
so with this approval of this policy, what we'll be doing is moving forward and having some conversations around with the teaching and learning department, as well as student services, around where the communication of this policy comes into play from the teacher to the students. So that may come in with library media specialists, instructional technology, looking at literacy lessons, or even advisory time, just ensuring that the communication to students is there and part of the instruction and not just a after-the-fact piece. So you'll see that moving forward.
Great, Mrs. Voigt.
The old one said it was going to be distributed annually.
Yep.
It's like, that really isn't enough. So that's another improvement here, at least that by saying that the policy will be included in the student handbook, in the employee handbook, et cetera, that's,
Yeah, and we talked as a team that we want to make sure it's
more.
integrated into lessons, not just a standoff.
Right. Excellent. All righty. Okay. So moving on is to our discussion information items. First up is East Diploma / rank.
Yeah, and as
Welcome.
as we have some of our team members come up, I just wanted to share that last year, it was about June, that Susan Poppy and Mark Leonard came forward and were talking about the East Charter. And as they came forward to Student Services at that time, the decision was made to let the charter lapse. So this is really kind of a next step in that journey of what is next, since East is now an alternative school. So I'm super proud to have the team here. I'll get off, Laura, sorry. I'm super proud to have the team here, but just really also pleased about the collaboration across departments. I did welcome Laura Ryan to the Student Services team, so she's the Director of Secondary, or for the high school teaching and learning. Susan Poppy is the principal at East, and Mark Leonard, you all know, but having them all here together on a collaborative effort is really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Sue.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Thank you for having us to have this discussion. It is the next step for East, since the last 2 years have gone through our evolution and changing the process. Very thankful to have both of Laura and Mark supporting us on our journey throughout all of this. Just a little background, when we were a charter, we had slightly different guidelines than that, which were in conflict with alternative education law and all of that. So when we dropped the charter, this was our next step to come forward, because currently all students at East will receive a home high school diploma. Through the transformation of East, we have changed the delivery of our learning methods. It's now project-based. It's very different. Everything's blended together. That if you have a student, same goals and everything that they would have at the traditional high school will also be at East, but it's just done very differently. And they don't always play in the same sandbox language-wise, okay? DPI does allow the school board to determine what type of diploma our students get. In our case, it's still a traditional high school diploma. However, it's just done 17 because electives are naturally built in. So moving forward, should we go to the next one? Sorry. We just wanted to give that background, like I kind of was just talking about. What they're saying is the decision is made by the local school district and documentation and written policy. And then the DPI encourages districts to award that same diploma. And like I also just said, sorry, I'm a slide behind. That also coincides with our transcripts. So when you're also looking at transcripts compared to the diploma, those too come from the home high school, even though they're at East. So all that, the CUME files, everything is kept at their home high schools. Go to the next one. Yeah, ready?
Yep.
Okay, so what we're proposing is, starting with the graduation cohort of 2026, that East will convert to a traditional high school diploma issued by East instead of the home high school. Additionally, the transcripts, students will come back to East to receive their transcripts as well. The reason why we want to, I won't say postpone it, we want to kind of grandfather that in is because our juniors, current juniors in that, were promised a traditional high school diploma, and I do not want to go back on that. I think they deserve that as well. So that is the proposal.
And just to give you a little bit of anecdotal evidence to help with this, if, for example, you've heard about the various pathways that are available to students at East. As students are switching to or choosing East earlier in their high school career, in some cases as freshmen or sophomores, there isn't that natural connection to what would normally be considered their home high school. As a result, when they graduate, they'll tell you, I'm an East student, and we want the diploma to reflect that.
Additionally, class rankings probably don't normally pertain to East, so we would also like to eliminate that as a measure for our kids.
And that's again due
Due
to
to-
the number of different pathways available to students. There is not one prescribed pathway to a diploma at East, and therefore, taking 100-plus students and saying you're number 1 and you're number 10 and you're number 25 is just very, it would be very difficult to do that in an equitable way.
Mrs. Boyd?
Do they currently, like, work into a class rank at their home high school?
I believe so.
Do they
yes.
really? Yes.
Yeah.
It's like apples and oranges.
Complete, complete.
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yeah, this is great information. Thank you for sharing this, and this certainly seems to make a lot of sense. I just have a couple of questions just to kind of round out my understanding. So, I am curious, you had mentioned we're starting to see more students coming in to East as freshmen or sophomores. What is traditionally the grades that we're seeing the majority of students come in at? Is it at,
We started the freshman, sophomore cohort my very first year. So 2 years ago, this is my third, was the first time that was ever offered.
Right.
So as that is starting to grow, we encourage, if we see, red flags, whatever, or they just learn differently, anxiety, all those issues, they're coming younger.
right?
So currently, we have a freshman and sophomore cohort of about, I think, 16, 17 kids. It just keeps going.
And
We-
remind me again, what's the total enrollment at East?
Currently, we're at 96, I
Okay,
believe.
wow. So
94.
I noticed that there's a reference to the fact that some students may enter East through a disciplinary measure, right? And that they can return back to their home school. How often do we see that happen? Is that a common occurrence for those that come in through disciplinary?
That's my role, and.
Okay.
Yes, that is a common occurrence. That is, students who are placed in what is called the abeyance program at East. That is a separate program. Again, this is where we talk about the various pathways.
Right.
It is still a pathway to a diploma. Does it look different? Absolutely it does. Those are students who are there placed there through a disciplinary process
Right.
for lots of different
I
reasons.
can also say that they are working on, if they are on that pathway to be reinstated back to their home high school, they are working on what they should be doing in that same model format at East.
So in the case of those students then, do you maintain grades that do factor into their GPA and class rank back at their home
Yes.
school?
Yes.
in-
Yes,
In the event.
it would be, the closest comparison would be a credit recovery program or credit recovery class. Students placed in the abeyance program are typically working on core classes, math, science, social studies, and English,
Okay.
in a credit recovery type situation. And I think you could probably expect to see this, that students who are there for a disciplinary reason oftentimes have credit issues, and
Right.
therefore we're working through that with them anyway.
Right.
And it gives an opportunity for them to get caught up.
Okay, great.
Students, I'd just like to add, on slide 4, there's a link to pathways to diplomas, and that kind of defines each of the different pathways, and one of them is that abeyance. So if a student would be placed at East for a discipline and then earned his way back to his home school and earned his 25 traditional credits, he would still receive his traditional home high school
Right, okay.
diploma.
And anything that he or she did while at East would show up on, let's say they came from North, would be on their North transcript and would
Correct.
factor into their
Yes.
class ranking.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Mrs. Voigt?
One of the things that you mentioned in the preparation materials was the fact that the 17 credits for the traditional high school diploma, it's hard to offer the electives that the kids, would be able to get in their home high school per se. Typically, some of the kids had gone back for some of those classes if they could, or is that not happening anymore?
It does not happen anymore.
Okay.
It is a full, either on the full-day program, that, how they used to be able to, mornings here and afternoons there.
Exactly,
which-
exactly.
Which was a transportation nightmare.
Sure.
At a minimum. No, we now have 7 workshops built into our school. They're using them all day. So their electives are naturally built into project-based learning. So to track auto mechanics, throwing some out there, you know, it won't be in that. They make, because they're using maker spaces and all culinary, yeah, and all of that. So we just don't put those on their transcript because everything's integrated. So it's like integrated 1, 2, 3, 4 for all those core academics. And then we also add in a financial literacy component that is required for graduation, and then along with, well, PE and health, obviously. And then we do their elective credits after that 15 are done in wayfinding, which is more like that goal setting and the college prep and all of that, as well as durable skills, which are those soft skills and pre-employability and employability skills that all employers are looking for. So we delve into that pretty heavily as well, because that's the goal.
Mr. White?
Yeah, so that kind of leads me into something else I was curious about. What percentage of our East graduates go on to some sort of post-secondary education? Do we know that? Do we have some?
I could get you the data. I would say, last year, I think we had 6. We had some in apprenticeships.
Sure.
We just were removed from being that school of improvement plan that we were on
2
4 years.
Yeah, 4
Well,
years.
we were only here the 2, but
Yeah,
like 4,
right.
whatever.
Right.
And throughout that, we were just really focusing on trying to get that graduation right up and all of that. I can honestly say today was a good day.
Yeah.
We just awarded a $10,000 initiative, COLA initiative scholarship to one of our kids.
Oh, that's terrific.
So, and that young lady for nursing, because it's the kids that went through some obstacles in their education that normally would not qualify.
Sure.
We work very closely with workforce development. We work very closely with Forward Careers. We do a lot of partnerships just to start making those connections for those kids.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's going to go up. I really do, as
That's
we
terrific.
get better and better at what we do.
So then, and I'm sure that this isn't an issue, but I'm just curious, do the transcripts that would come from, say, East, or the diploma, or the lack of a class rank, impact at all any of the admissions criteria and impact?
Not that I have found, we have found, I would 9 times out of 10 stack up their portfolio to anybody's transcript any day.
Sure.
Because it's all, you know, evidence-based. A lot of it we have found has come down to, say, that college entry essay.
Right.
That they put more stake in, and if, a lot of times they're gonna, what have you overcome? You know, when you think of how they ask those things, these kids have a journey.
And just to give you, you know, kind of how this can sometimes work, is I had a student that was taking a non-traditional route, and they were applying to Carroll. And I actually reached out to the admissions counselor at Carroll to kind of explain the why behind the different route.
Right.
I think the colleges and universities appreciate that and certainly take that into consideration as they're making decisions.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? So,
See,
Mrs.
this
Boyd?
is not an action item, but,
No.
you know, just, I think it's a great idea. And totally support, you know, the kind of direction that you're going to make East its own high school, its own, you know, established alternative school.
so what is the diploma gonna look like, or the transcripts? Is it gonna say alternative school? Because we had another high school that you may not know about, which we renamed because it had some stigma with its name.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. No, I hate the word alternative.
Right, I don't like it
Very
either.
negative connotation. I know we tossed that idea around a little last year. I don't know what it would take to just go by Waukesha East, which is how we refer to ourselves.
Right.
We leave that off all the time. We've had discussion even with like support people from Blair that come over and support our kids and stuff, and it just seems to be when they hear that word, especially new kids maybe considering East, but they hear alternative and they immediately go to, it's those bad kids. And
Right.
I would say our kids aren't so bad. I
Right.
mean, they're pretty amazing actually, and it's not, you're not placed there anymore, right? Abeyance, yes. But it's a choice. I'm
Right.
not gonna force you to come.
Yeah.
You know, it's an option, it's another pathway.
Okay.
And so if there was a way to remove that,
Yeah, I don't
my
know.
soapbox, but I mean, I wasn't tackling that one yet.
Yeah. When we ran the school at the county jail, we changed its name because the original diplomas came
Yes.
through county jail, and then we changed it to, I believe it was Riverview High School is what we changed it to, so. And that didn't have alternative, I don't think, in it, no, and that's an alternative,
I know in my
The
last
school as well.
district, we changed it from a very long name
Right.
to a shorter name. It had not one reference to being alternative.
right? So I was just wondering what that looks like, I mean, does it have to be on the diploma, does it have to be, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that will be part of our next steps. Our first step was to come here, kind of get your take on things, kind of give you a little update of our thinking.
Right.
And then really it was discussion tonight, but we can bring it back for discussion, more discussion and possible action in the
Yeah.
future. And then the group can continue their work on that path.
Right. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. You gotta get a little skin in the game if you're at that school, where you're part of the community. School is a community, so you don't want these students to think that they're something else than
Yeah,
full students in the Waukesha School District.
I
Alrighty.
appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Next up on the discussion information items is the role of school counselors.
Yeah, so as our school counselors come on up,
Yes,
I will just kind
it's
of
a
give
hot
us.
topic at the last board meeting.
I can- All right, so we're going to get the presentation projected.
Okay.
So as everyone gets situated, I just wanted to remind everyone that tonight the presentation is the role of the school counselor, and this is really one of the series that we've been doing around the role of. We've covered school psychologists, social workers. This probably won't be the last one because I'm thinking about the role of special education teachers. So this has been just a nice journey to share more information about what our student services staff does and sometimes what a day looks like, and actually get to see some of the people face to face that sometimes you don't see them. So Mark Leonard is here with a couple counselors, and he'll introduce everyone, and then they'll share their presentation, and then we have one more agenda item after that.
Excellent.
I can try. Mine did share.
All right, great, thank you. So we'll work through the technical difficulties as I introduce everyone. So we have Amanda DeSua, we have Jill Werner, Deb Cahill, Kim Harrington, and in the back, we have Tiffany Lenza and Jody Callies, who are here to support the team. So thank them all for being here, appreciate it. And we'll get going on the presentation. So there we go, you should be able to connect now.
While we're waiting for technology, I can go ahead and get started. We also have Ashley Doolittle here. She's a SDW elementary school teacher and practicum student getting her degree in school counseling. So we have a slide coming up momentarily that's going to talk about the American School Counselor domains that we operate under. So we have, as school counselors, 3 domains: academic achievement, career and college readiness, and social emotional support. Our training is the same as a licensed professional counselor or therapist. It prepares us to address the ASCA mindsets and behaviors, which cover learning strategies, self-management, and social skills. So the work we do is kind of divided into those domains and operates under some national standards.
When we're looking at those 3 domains, it really is broken down into different tiers. Tier 1 is really something that makes school counselors unique in that we work with all students in our buildings through universal practices, classroom lessons, building culture, things along those lines, as well as then working in that Tier 2 small group kind of work, and also the Tier 3 work that is done with the more individual basis. But truly what makes our work unique is that universal level in working with all students within our building.
So this is our elementary school counselor team. There's 4 of us. 2 of us are full-time at the elementary level, myself and Heidi Edwards, with 5 schools each, 1 day at each building. Jody Callie spends 4 days at South and 1 day at Higher. And then we have Leslie Abruzzo, 1 day at Hillcrest, and then eAchieve support as well. So a lot of what we do, as Kim indicated, is in the Tier 1 universal level. We do a lot of assisting with programming that helps create safe and supportive school environments. We work closely with teachers, families, our psychs and social workers, assisting with some of those student service teams and positive behavior intervention support. At the elementary level, a lot of our time is spent in the classroom directly with students, delivering monthly preventative lessons on topics such as conflict resolution, dealing with big feelings, how to communicate effectively, how to be safe, how to address bullying behavior. We also spend some time facilitating small groups and meeting with students one-on-one on occasion. Those needs are growing at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 level. And then, of course, some parent and family support, mental health resources, and staff training. And that's in action. We're teaching square breathing and some lessons about how to have healthy minds. That's a Children's Hospital of Wisconsin e-learning curriculum that we utilize in our classrooms that really looks at the whole child and making sure that we're creating healthy young people by educating their minds and teaching them good strategies for dealing with life's challenges.
And then we have our middle school crew. So we have Angie Jackson and Natalie Ramirez at Horning. Debbie Cahill is at Les Paul, and Tiffany Lenza shares her time between Les Paul and STEM, Saratoga. And then myself and Corey Klafka, we are at Butler Middle School. And when we look at what we do at the middle level, it's such a unique time in students' lives. Truly, they come in sixth grade as somewhat elementary students still. And truly, by the time they leave us, I'm tall, but some of those kids are taller than me. They just change physically, maturity, emotionally, so much in that time. So by the time they leave, we're truly preparing them for high school and that next step. There was a quote by Trish Hatch some time ago that truly, I think, emulates the work we do, and it's that school counselors exist to affect change in students, to acquire attitudes, skills, and knowledge, and improve attendance, behavior, and academic achievement. Debbie's going to talk a little bit more about what that actually looks like at the middle level, but there's a lot.
Yeah, so adding on to what Kim just shared, you can tell by the slide that we're active in several different venues. And we deliver our program working in the classroom, working with small groups and individually, and doing it at developmentally appropriate age level for middle school kids, which, as Kim said, can vary from 6th to 8th grade. So we do consider academic and attendance and discipline data to help guide our work with the students, as well as collaborating with teachers on a regular basis. So we get some anecdotal as well as other data from the classroom. So this work starts in the middle of 5th grade. So the middle school counselors have all visited 5th grade classrooms as of right now and starting the course request process. And I already have students emailing me, asking me questions about what activities are going on at middle school. I have parents emailing me little information about their student. And so it starts about now. And then it goes all the way through 8th grade. At the end of 8th grade, the school counselor, we're already collaborating with the high school and appropriate high school staff. So really, all the middle school students have a school counselor standing behind them, encouraging them to dream big and to be the best that they can be. And just so you know, we appreciate that behind school counselors is a dedicated school board, and you taking the time to understand our role, and we really appreciate that. So thanks a lot.
Oh, we have pictures. So this is just a snapshot, just gauging a day, our days vary greatly, but definitely in the classroom, working with students, supporting them, whatever that looks like to meet their needs. We'll do individual counseling sessions as well as small group lessons, and we definitely do a lot of contribution to the overall school culture too.
All right, so here's our big group of high school counselors. As you can see, by high school listed there. So I'm not going to read those all to you. There's a big group. This is our breakdown of the 4 different areas. Basically, I just want to say, like how Kim and Debbie just said, they take the 5th grade little elementary kids and move them up to become ours, right? So we take those 9th graders and try to get them the best prepared as we can to get them out the door and into the real world, whether that is technical college, military, whatever it is. We try to offer them as many possibilities and share that throughout those 4 years of high school. So we are kind of the jack of all trades. A lot of things fall in our lap as the counselors. We do work with all students, so if we have 400 students, we know them all. We have met with them. We do hand-do their schedules, so we do really get to know them by the time their 4 years is up. So if you can see the 4 different areas there, we are the case managers for 504 plans. We also assist in IEP meetings, SST meetings, pre-expulsion meetings with Mark here, any attendance meetings, so we're in all those meetings. In the classroom level, we're in classrooms a lot, doing different presentations for different grade levels, or teachers can actually ask us to come in and talk about different things with students. But for the most part, we are also just guiding students along the way, class scheduling, choosing their courses that sort of fit their needs for future. We do a lot with college and career planning. You'll see on the next slide, we have some pictures of things that we do as far as getting students to understand what opportunities are there by the time you leave us. How many college classes could you complete, whether it's AP or through different programming? So all those things have to happen with a face-to-face conversation, including with the families, because the families have to understand the programs that are available to our students by the time they're a junior and senior. And you'll see in the next slide how many kids are actually involved in doing those things. So top picture on the left, that is one of our college tours. We take 50 students in the junior class, North does, to go visit colleges on an overnight trip. So they see 4 colleges in the 36-hour period. That's something in the last 3 years we started doing, just to give students who don't necessarily have the opportunity of family at home that can take them to a college that's more than an hour away from here. So that's sort of where it came out of. Next to that, it's just an action shot of our West counselors in a classroom setting. And then bottom left is our dual enrollment signing that each one of the high schools has. Dual Enrollment Academy at WCTC, 10 different programs. They graduate with that technical diploma before they even graduate from our district. That's last year's group for North. We have 40 students at North in Dual Enrollment Academy this year, 86 total for the district. And we also have Start College Now and Early College Credit Program. Again, all those have to have personal conversations with families to get students involved in those. We have 154 students this fall semester across the district that applied to take college classes in those programs outside of that one. And the last picture is the college fair at North, annual, I think it's 7th annual this year, which South, West, and North all bring their junior classes, and then local high schools around here outside of our district come too, so about 1,200 kids come through in the 2 hours, so you're welcome to join us. March 15th is our next one.
We added the quote back in here just to wrap up our role as school counselors. And I just keep thinking, as I reflect on this quote even, that universal level that I spoke about before, that's our preventative work. As we look at this quote and we think about how we are able to help students improve their attendance, behavior, and academic achievement, it really does start at that universal preventative work that we do, but then it carries them through to meet those individual needs. So we just thought this was a great way to sum up our work.
Excellent. Any questions?
No, I can.
Mrs. Voigt, I know.
Comments?
Yeah, comments, questions?
I think it's really appropriate that you're here during School Counselor Appreciation Week. You know, it's perfect timing. And I've really enjoyed the social media posts that the School District of Waukesha has been putting out there this last, couple days, showing, you had some pictures here, but other examples of, just the impact you have on kids' lives. And just the quote that, you put a smile on their face, at Les Paul Middle School, and having that kind of influence on kids, that they really look to you as a morale booster during the course of their days. So I know many of you personally, and you just do an amazing job. So I just want to thank you for coming to share your story with everyone here, for the community to realize how great things you do.
Ms. King?
I just wanted to add, so you are truly, you couldn't have said it better, the face of the school. I mean, some of you I know I've had the pleasure of having as my students, my children's counselors, and working with, Kim, amazing, watching everything that you're involved in, and you get to know every student all the time. You're popping in the classroom, you're in your office, you're not in your office, you're going to help in the situation. I mean, you're amazing, and I'm truly honored to have you sit here and just tell everyone all the things you do, because I've seen it firsthand, and I couldn't agree more. You are the face of your schools, and you truly do get to know every single student, and that's powerful. That's precious. Thank you.
Mrs. White?
Yeah, something.
What is you first?
Before I
We're going to
go.
draw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way. So, first of all, I just want to start, first of all, thank you all for coming. And to Ms. Genderman, thank you for continuing to put these different presentations on. I know I've learned a tremendous amount about a number of the roles that we hear and see every day, but we don't necessarily get to have a great understanding of what happens and what responsibilities are on a day-to-day basis. So thank you all, and appreciate everything you do. My daughter has been through working with a couple of people sitting at the table, and I certainly am aware of all the great work you've done with her over the years, and I appreciate all of it. I'm going to start. I just have a couple of questions for the high school side of things. I'm just curious if you can share with me kind of what kind of trends you're seeing in terms of where are our kids' interest beyond high school going? Are we seeing changes? Do we see, for example, more kids interested in pursuing something other than a college career path? Is that increasing, maybe vocations, trades, technical colleges, or has it remained fairly stable in terms of the number of students we're seeing continuing to want to pursue a four-year college degree after graduation?
I think it's pretty much, it's been staying the same, but we are definitely a district that promotes all angles.
Right.
We've always been one that talks, the dual enrollment, we basically keep the dual enrollment academy going. You probably all know that because you're funding it, right? So we've always pushed that you pick your path, right? It's not just everyone needs to go four-year college. So I believe that our kids are still on the right page, that they choose truly what they're doing. So I don't think we've seen a big shift, but I think other districts are starting to see
Right.
more.
Kind of
Jumping
catching
on
up
our
with us.
bandwagon, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Great, and I just want to put in a good word for the college tour that you do for juniors. My daughter had an opportunity to go on that, and I know it was invaluable for her just to get a feeling for what campuses look like and what the feel is when you're there. Even if they weren't necessarily schools that wound up on her final list, I think there's great value in that. I don't know if the other high schools do it, but I think it would be great to provide that for more students across the district, because I think it's, and I think for some, maybe they get an understanding, maybe this isn't for me. But anyway, I thought that was a great activity, and I'm really pleased that North offers it, and hope that continues to be part of the future, so.
Excellent. Mrs. White?
On one of the things that was on social media, it talks about the ideal caseload is 250 students per school counselor. And I know that at one point we had 4 counselors at North, and now North High School has 3. So I'm wondering what, you'd mentioned 400, is part of the kids get to know you, you get to know them. Are we anywhere near the 250 ideal caseload? No. When you have all the different, 5 different schools, I can't imagine that you could be under that.
And as the case numbers get closer to that, that just allows us to do more of that universal preventative work for sure, so.
All right, any other questions, comments? Thank you for taking the time. We do not always get to interact with the different aspects that Jen has brought before this committee. And I think it's really important because it's to see the faces of the people that are really putting the work in at the schools. So I'm very grateful to see you and to see the other staff that has come before the committee. It's just fantastic, and I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much. Okay. Another quality group of staff. I love it. Next up is individual education plans.
Yeah, so I'll do a little intro and then kick it off to our fabulous team here. Tonight we have Hadassah Robinson, who's Director of Elementaries for Special Education, Lisa Pullen, who's Director of Secondary Special Education, and look at Michelle Bedlove changed seats.
Move over.
I bet you it is. It is. So just like the counselors, you don't always know what they do behind the scenes. Tonight will be a nice opportunity for you to get to know what these ladies have been doing, but also Michelle. She does more than just student services meetings. So as our data programmer, she's been doing an amazing job. So as we continue on with just better understanding the different roles in student services and special education, we wanted to bring forward some information tonight as a follow-up to some of our IEP information or special education information we had brought forward. Previously, we had shared information about the different areas of disability and just wanted to get a common understanding of all those different areas, just to ground us all in our IEP lingo and the areas of disability. So tonight what the team is going to talk about is really more about all the work that we've been doing for an individual education plan. Every student who does qualify for special education has an individual education plan. These are students that we then identify as students with disabilities. And so this group has been doing some heavy lifting and wanted to have them actually share a little bit more about what we're looking at with IEPs, but also some systematic changes we've made with our student information system. So I'll turn it over to the group.
Hello. We are excited to share with you and give you an update around our professional learning and connections as a system. And so we're really going to be going over what a local educational agency, or what we call in special education world, LEA, really that's just our public institution or agency that has administrative control and direction over public schools. And so that is our administrators, K through 12 within our system. And so we're going to give an overview about that. We're going to also dive into college and career ready IEPs and our professional learning as a system around that. We're going to go through the connection and collaboration between student services and teaching and learning, and how we're working together and just creating more connectivity and collaboration. We're going to go over our student information system, just like Ms. Gunnerman had shared around Infinite Campus specifically, and then our next steps as a system.
So as we look at the local educational agency or LEA training, we had the opportunity on January 22nd to hold a training with Kari Olson from CISA, as well as the directors and Ms. Gennerman, for all of our administrators serving as LEAs at IEP meetings, evaluation meetings, and reevaluation meetings. So some of the topics that we had the opportunity to cover with them are the required team members at meetings. We also were able to cover expectations for them as they serve as an LEA for IEPs, evaluations, and 3-year reevaluations, And then we reviewed disability criteria, which we had presented to you previously. This training gave us the opportunity to ensure consistency among services that we are delivering as LEAs throughout our district and making sure that we have consistency with following special education law for our IEPs and evaluations. We also had the opportunity to review components of the college and career ready IEPs with all administrators. So we reviewed with them the present level of performance for students. We reviewed disability-related needs, and that is based on their academic achievement and functional performance. And then we looked at how we formed goals based on disability-related needs, and then talked about how those goals drive the specially designed instruction and supplementary aids and services that are provided to our students to help them access the general education curriculum.
There was a lot there. I do want to point out some connections to some of the work that and information that was brought forward. Previously, when we talked about the different areas of disability, one of the areas that we talked a lot about was other health impairment. That was the specific area that this training focused on as far as the criteria, ensuring that all people are sitting around those reevaluation meetings and initial meetings are very grounded in the process as far as looking at the checklist criteria for that area of disability to ensure that we're not over-identifying. So it was a great connection and next step for our building principals to be a part of this training. Since then, several of the principals have said, wow, this is great. It really impacts our day-to-day work. Keep it coming. So there will be more for them.
So next, we had the opportunity on January 15th during our Winter Institute to train our student services staff around college and career-ready IEPs. So we were able to give the administrators on the 22nd a brief overview of the training that the student services staff received on the 15th. So there are 5 steps in the college and career-ready IEP process, and I know it's a little hard to see the words, but when you look at understand, that really ties to the present level of performance for the student. So what we're looking at is those grade level academic achievement and functional performance standards. We're looking at the student's strengths and the student's area of needs. And as we're doing that, that helps us identify, which is the next step in the process, how that student's disability is impacting their ability to access that general education curriculum. And through that, we're determining disability-related needs. So, for example, a disability-related need could be a student is struggling with reading, and when we drill down to determine the root cause of that, we get to the point of that they are having trouble decoding multisyllabic words. That could be a disability-related need. Once we identify those disability-related needs, step 3 is developing ambitious and achievable goals for those students based on the disability-related need to help us close that achievement gap for those students. So once we've developed those goals, then we are working to align the specially designed instruction around the disability-related need. And in this case, I had used the example of reading. So what specially designed instruction will that student receive in reading? What supplementary aids and services would they need in that general education curriculum to help them access things as their same age peers? And then also what related services might they need to benefit from special education services as well? And once we've aligned those services together with the disability-related needs, the goals, and that program summary, we're then analyzing and collecting data and progress monitoring to ensure that the services and the goals and the work that we're providing to students is helping them make gains and close that achievement gap, ensuring that they can access that general education curriculum.
I would say here too, as a former special education teacher, that while it sounds new and refreshed as far as having IEP that is college and career ready, these steps are not new. I think they're just bringing it into more alignment, and we're looking for more alignment within the IEPs as well as services and progress monitoring so that we can have conversations about when is it time to dismiss students from special education. So while college and career may be a newer term, this work as part of IEPs is really what we've all been doing. We just want to bring it a little bit tighter in our system and for having our building principals to know what to look for in this process and in the IEP documentation.
So as Ms. Paulin was saying about getting students to access their regular education, and that's where we have our combined efforts between student services and teaching and learning. So we are really working together by transitioning into our student information system to strengthen our collaboration. And so what the student information system allows us to do is to have visibility and transparency with our IEPs. So our individual education plan, so that regular education teachers and special education teachers, all staff that interacts with that particular student and parents have access to what those IEP goals are, what are those supplementary aids and services are, and updated information about their student. And so really working towards having those combined efforts for all of our students. So that takes us to our Infinite Campus transition. So we were using GoIdea, and previously the staff that had access to GoIdea was special education staff and administration. And so transitioning to Infinite Campus, really the goal is to have teachers have access to the IEPs so that we can collaborate, plan. We have professional learning communities throughout our system. And so when we are planning, and kind of going back into my coaching mentality, when I'm planning around grade level teams, or if we're planning around a content level team, really looking at what are those supports and services that students need in order to access their general education. And so with that, you need a plan. And so we started this transition in June, and we had over summer 93 special education teachers trained prior to the start of the school year. So we have two really big professional learning opportunities here in the school district of Waukesha. We have what we like to call Summer Institute and Winter Institute. And so at Summer Institute, we were able to train all new teachers and continuing teachers with the new system of Infinite Campus. We also had our new teacher training days where we did do Infinite Campus training with them as well. Michelle Betelov has been working with me, alongside me, in creating an Infinite Campus newsletter with any new updates. As we are transitioning between OASIS or GoIdea and Infinite Campus, there's a lot of shifts. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were communicating with staff and making sure that there was a hub of information. So we have Infinite Campus newsletter and updates where we do how-tos and we link them in there. Any new system changes that are happening, we always update that in there as well. And then during Winter Institute, which was our another professional learning opportunity, we did give Infinite Campus updates and expectations, and just trying to really calibrate the system and giving as much information as we can as we transition. And so with that transition comes our next steps as a system. So I'm going to pass the mic to Michelle.
So we still have a lot of work to do. It's been a busy 7-8 months, and but we still have things that need to be finished. We're working really hard to make sure that the reporting that we get out of Infinite Campus now is very similar to what we had in Oasis or GoIdea, and also to make sure that the teachers have access to that so that they could run a report and say, if this is a goal, how many of the students that I have in this section also are going to have the same goal, maybe do some collaborating with them, working with the regular ed teachers just to make sure that they know that they can use these same techniques with multiple students in their classrooms, and maybe branch off and help some of those other kids that don't have quite that same need but are very similar in that area. So really hoping that we can use those supplementary aids and services to get the teachers really involved with the students and knowing exactly what they need to do. And hopefully those will be with a push of a button, maybe push of 2 buttons, but it'd be nice if we can just get that a lot easier. The other thing that's happening now is that when they have an IEP on their classroom list, when they pull up their attendance, there's a little icon that they can click on, and it pulls up information about that student. Infinite Campus, it will have their full IEP, and then we'll do some training around that with the regular ed teachers, teaching them where they go, how they can do a quick search, do a search for goals, do a search for supplementary services, and then they can pull up what they need from there if they want to look at that individual student's plan as well. 504 plans are still currently in Go Idea, and we are working to get those updated into Infinite Campus. That's not quite as big of a project, but it's still a pretty big project. We hope to have that ready for this year's Summer Institute, and then we'll also be training all of the counselors who work with those and the psychologists that work with those and how to use that plan. So that is definitely a very big TBD coming up for us. And right now, we are in the middle of doing behavior intervention plans, working with Ally Poff and the IT staff to get those documents created and just nice and shiny and bright and filling up as much as we can and making them as accessible. And those will also start showing up on rosters for the regular ed teachers to see in the near future.
And one really big thing that we wanted to share is elementary land is very different than secondary land. And so secondary, I may be a teacher and I have 8 different courses or 5 different courses that I teach. And so the goal really is that on each teacher's roster, we would have the reports linked in. So if you click one, it'll have every single math goal of any student within that section. And then a reading link. And so I just really want to highlight Michelle Badalov's work alongside, because she's really creating a lot of those reports on the back end of it. And so for the 24-25 school year, it's really about making all of the information there for all staff that work with whatever student that we have, so that we are able to plan and support and have as great of access as we can to general education curriculum, because really it's about student success here in the school district of Waukesha and what we can do to make sure that happens. And so really wanting to highlight as we move forward to the 24-25 school year. I keep highlighting to staff that it's a work in progress, but we're all working towards the same goal. And so we just wanted to share that portion.
Ultimately, this has been a big lift, but having appropriate access to student information has been the key, and we're finding and making and creating efficiencies along the way. So a teacher does not have to go run down the hall, get the copy, then go over here, get this, that sort of thing. And so kudos to this team. It's been a heavy lift, but I think you can see it will pay off once we have it up and running completely and be a little bit more efficient for our teams. So thank you, guys.
Any questions? Mr. Wadd?
Yeah, thank you so much for this, and I know I'm really excited to see all the benefit we're going to get and efficiency we're going to get, which ultimately, as you pointed out, I thought really well during this, will benefit the delivery of these services to the kids who need them. So I just really want to commend you all on the hard work you're doing, getting this data into Infinite Campus and centralizing it and making it accessible and improving the collaboration. It sounds like it's been a big effort, but it's clear to me that this is going to be a big win for the district when it's all done. So thank you for coming and sharing all that, and can't wait to hear more about how this is progressing.
Great. Ms. Koenig?
This is amazing. As a classroom teacher for many, many years and having many, many special ed students in my class, I just remember the hurdles and things I had to go through to be able to get this information. To see this unity and this coming together and bringing it all in one place where the classroom teachers can also feel much more a part of the collaboration instead of, not an afterthought, but, kind of getting things maybe 3 weeks into the school year or a month into the school year. Having access to this immediately would have been just so much more beneficial. But this is wonderful. Like I said, I can't imagine what a great team building concept this is to wrap around the students. I mean, for everyone involved. Have you heard what's been the feedback specifically from regular ed teachers? How are they? Have they shared that they're enjoying this more? That it's much more easy for them to feel a part of implementing the IEP?
I would say right now, a lot of the feedback is coming from our special education staff. Because it is a transition between Go Idea and Infinite Campus, I think the biggest thing right now is onboarding all of our new annual IEPs, how reevaluations look within the within Infinite Campus. One thing that we've highlighted that regular education teachers are able to see now is that because it's our student information system, it also feeds then into our curriculum. And so with the integration of iReady, we now have the student information system is able to talk to iReady. Thank you to the IT team and Ali Poff that created that. So now if I am a regular education teacher and I'm pulling up a diagnostic report for my classroom, a lot of that information was shared out with parents. And so when we're looking at that and we're planning around students, I'm able now to see the growth between my special education students and my regular education students. And as an administrator, I can see that across my building. And I can see that now within my grade level. So I think we will see more feedback from regular education teachers, I think in the 24-25 school year. We're getting a lot of feedback just about systems. Because it is a transition and working through those, we are really open to feedback and we've made a lot of shifts from feedback from staff just to, streamline everything. And so I think that's where most of our feedback has been coming from.
That's great. Well, thank you. This is fantastic. Very exciting to see this happen.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Nothing? Alrighty, I know it's a lot of work, and it was work that definitely needed to be done when we went with Infinite Campus. I know that was always the goal, but there was always this concern about what it would look like in Infinite Campus from Oasis, so I'm glad it's getting done. And we definitely appreciate it. I think it's great for the regular ed teachers to understand the goals and the behavior plans of the special ed students that are in their classes for sure. So it's great. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for letting us share with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, next up is other business, recommendation for future meetings.
And I have
Mrs.
one.
Yes, Mrs. Voigt?
I'd like us to take a look at the opportunity that's available through the community eligibility provision to potentially provide lunch and breakfast for students that are from high poverty communities within our school system. I have a unique opportunity to be aware of which kids are receiving blessings in a backpack at our schools. And at this point, when I was preparing the 290 plus for Hadfield one week, I stopped and asked if these kids that are getting that supplement for the weekend, how they're doing on paying for their school lunches. And the secretary pulled up a list of thousands of dollars that are owed because, many of them are on free and reduced lunch, but if they don't have that form filled out right away as they transfer in from a different school or whatever the case might be, it's literally thousands of dollars that the parents are not able to pay, to take care of for paying. And my heart just goes out to, it's not those kids' fault, and they don't do lunch shaming that they used to talk about the cheese sandwich kind of things. It's like, no, they just let the kids eat, and then the running bill is accumulating. So my concern is if there's an opportunity to be able to identify schools that have majority kids that are in that need situation, and we have at least 4 schools that's the case, if we could offer them the opportunity to have free breakfast and free lunch without having to go through, the process. If that program is available, we should do what we can. And that's called the community eligibility provision for the agenda.
Okay, anything else for future meetings? If anything comes up, email myself and Jen, and we will definitely get it on the agenda. And that concludes our meeting for this evening. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.